The NMAA knows that community support is a major factor in bringing an impactful and meaningful experience to our student athletes each year. In recognition of that support, the NMAA would like to thank TLC for their valued sponsorship of this year's preseason video.
The bleachers are empty. The concession stands aren't serving your favorite food. And home plate hasn't needed to be dusted off for the next batter yet. But the spirit is in our blood, so let's show them what we're made of. Pick up that bat. Dribble that ball. Refine your footwork and show up for your teammates. Don't stop. Keep working on your game, New Mexico, because we will play again.
Hi, I'm JP Murrieta with the New Mexico Activities Association. We will play again, New Mexico. That's been the hashtag since the COVID-19 pandemic first started. And now we are here. But as we all know, it's going to be a different kind of season than maybe we're used to, with a new set of guidelines and standards.
It's going to be different, but we are playing again. We're going to have some changes, and some changes we're going to have to adapt to. However, the focus is on emotional well-being of students. At the end, we will have a trophy presentation for a state champion, but that's not the focus this year. The focus is being able to get these kids out in a learning, education-based athletic environment and teaching them lifelong skills.
I have complete faith in my teachers, all my coaches, and keeping us safe. So the fact that if we abide by those laws and guidelines, I think that we can be trusted in having a season and get back to playing as soon as possible.
I know practicing in a mask isn't the best, but practicing in a mask is better than not practicing at all. So just being able to adapt and take everything you can get and just run with it. So just make sure you make the best of the situation, mask or not.
It's going to be a little different as far as the fans, as far as no tournaments, as far as a little bit of a reduced schedule, but the goals are still going to be the same. And they're never going to forget this experience. And we want them to try to have fun with it the best they can.
The new season brings many changes that must be addressed, from sanitation to health and safety. High school athletics will look a little different this year.
First and foremost, 6 feet social distancing. And then water bottles. Every athlete must have their own water bottle. We've talked to the schools about, yes, have jugs for them to fill up their water bottles, but they should not be drinking from water fountains. It's all in their own water bottle. And that even includes their clothes, their sweats, the clothes that they come to school in. They need to make sure that those are totally separated from everybody else, and nobody is touching clothes at this time except their own. We also need to, we're not going to have overnight travel. So all the games are going to be a game and then you go home. So you're going to be after school traveling to the game, you're going to play your game and go home. And with that being said, we will not throughout the year have any tournaments whatsoever, because tournaments bring mass gatherings and a lot of kids together in one place. So we will not have tournaments as well.
What about preseason physicals? What's required for students this season?
The board of directors this last summer voted that student athletes are able to use the 19-20 physicals for the 2021 school year. And even though now we're in February of 21, we're still going to use that board vote. So our student athletes, if they had a physical in 19-20 and they have not been injured or have not had a medical emergency, then they can use that physical for this school year. There will be a questionnaire that parents will have to figure out, and the answer to those questions will trigger, yes, I'm good with a 19-20 physical, or I need to get a new physical for this year. Also, anybody who's had COVID will need to get a medical release from a doctor. We do have a form that they would need to take to the doctor to get medical release in order to participate this school year.
What are the Scholastic Eligibility guidelines?
Since all sports are after the first semester is over, in the 2021 school year, we're dealing with second semester, all our sports, we will be using the first semester grades for Scholastic Eligibility. So you must have a 2.0 and no Fs at the semester. However, if you do have one F, 9th through 12th grade, you would be able to use the cumulative provision. If your cumulative provision is above a 2.0, then that student athlete would be eligible. And when I say eligible, it's from January all the way to the end of June. Now, we're going to have some student athletes that are not eligible based on cumulative provision. So therefore, they can regain their eligibility at the next marking period. For some schools, that's at 6 weeks. For other schools, that's at 9 weeks. But student athletes, once again, 2.0 and no Fs. If they have 1 F, you can use a cumulative provision to get them eligible. And if they're not eligible, they can regain that eligibility with a 2.0 and no Fs at the 6 weeks or 9 weeks marking period.
What happens if, during the course of the season, someone tests positive for COVID-19, or if a team's not able to play a game or even complete a season?
The athletic director or coach will go to the point of contact, which at most schools is usually the nurse, and then they will contact the Department of Health to see what we need to do within that situation. Sometimes they may ask the team that they will have to quarantine for a period of time. Now, as far as the NMAA is concerned, once we get that knowledge that a team has to quarantine, then we will look to see whether we have to reschedule games. Games that they will miss because they may have to quarantine will be considered no contest, so they're not going to get a loss on their record for that. And then any district ball games that they may not be able to play, they will be made up and rescheduled if time permits.
This year, there are changes to some sports. What are some of those changes when it comes to wrestling?
I think first and foremost, like every other sport, it's mask wearing. We need to make sure that we have the mask covering our nose and mouth. And so our director of wrestling, Scott Owen, gave the coaches an idea for a mask that will cover their chin. Therefore, when they put the headgear on, their nose and mouth are covered. Social distancing at all times, and that includes practice and events. And then, even though we emphasize this every single year in the sport of wrestling, we will continue to look at the good hygiene practices, including clothes, equipment, make sure that's all individualized, it is sanitized, and we really need to make sure that we sanitize those wrestling rooms and the mats at all times. As far as events are concerned, there's no overnight stays. So you will be looking at more dual meets. Those are what's going to be emphasized this year for competitions. There might be times that because in the girls' brackets we need to get into a little bit of more of a bigger event for the girls and have more teams. We will do that, but if that's the case, then we need to make sure we stay within the 100 limit within the facility. So that includes officials, players, and coaches in that facility at one time. Competition points will be reduced. They will be reduced from 32 points to 18. And because we have a shortened season, non-NMAA events will count towards that competition limit during the season. We get this next question a lot about weight assessments because kids are going from football to wrestling and there's not much time before the first competition. However, because of the safety of the kids, we will make sure that weight assessments are still required for all the athletes.
How will the postseason be different? What are the changes when it comes to state wrestling?
As in all sports, the state qualifiers will be reduced. As discussed before, we cannot have overnight travel. We have to have a limited amount of people in a facility at one time, so we're not able to bring the massive amounts that we have in the past in state wrestling. However, I can tell you we will have a culminating event at Rio Rancho Event Center on May 27th and 29th.
What about spectators? Are fans going to be allowed at the games?
You know, currently at the time of this taping, we are under the governor's public health orders, and spectators will go by the colors of the counties. So if the county is red or yellow, there will not be any spectators at a basketball game, and that is for all indoor sports. We're hoping that our athletic directors are ready to stream the game so our parents are able to see their kids play, but there will not be any spectators once again for red and yellow counties. Now, if a county moves to green and turquoise, with a green county, you have 25% of spectators, and a turquoise county is up to 33% indoors for spectators. So parents, I encourage you, you need to make sure that we do everything correctly in our communities. We need to get the word out that we got to mask wear, social distance, because we want to be able to have you guys watch your kids play and get our counties to green and turquoise.
Even though this year is going to be different than what we were used to, the goal to compete with class stays the same. We want our students, coaches, and parents to follow the values of respect, integrity, and responsibility.
Compete with class is so important just because it really is the epitome of what education-based athletics are all about. It's about respect, integrity, personal responsibility. Those are the core values that we want inside all of our kids while they're competing on the playing surface. Also within our coaches, our administrators, our officials. If we can stick to those core values and truly compete with class, it means we're doing the right thing while we're out there playing the games we love, and that's what we're all about.
Coaches, lead by example. Give your players a map of good sportsmanship to follow. Players, you are role models to others. Show your peers what it takes to compete with class. Parents and fans, keep it in perspective. We all want to create student athletes who have good moral character. Let's build a positive environment for them to bring out their best.
You know, parents, we need your support. And I'm not just saying we, your student athlete needs your support. They have gone through so much the past several months. They have been isolated, they've had doubts. They didn't even know if they were going to play again. And so them out there, and the games are different and the environment is different. But one thing that's not different is that they are able to compete, and they are able to compete with you by their side. Things are not ideal, and we're hoping that this soon will pass, but we can learn so many lifelong lessons this school year. And that is the goal. The goal is the emotional, mental well-being of student athletes, letting them be with their teammates, letting them compete. You know, we like to go out and win that blue trophy, but we need to focus in on what is important. And what is important is staying positive and showing our kids that we support them no matter the environment. They're going to be in a situation where they've never been in. This is different. This is history. So let's go ahead and make history, but let's do it positive. And like I said at the beginning, we are playing again, New Mexico.